Odysseus. King Odysseus of Ithaca was renowned for his bravery, swashbuckling, and his cunning intellect. After winning the Trojan War, he and his 12 ships set sail for home. He was having a rather strange dream about being flung into the future and having to live like a normal person when he was awoken by loud and excited commotion from his crew. They had spotted a lush island glistening like an emerald in the azure ocean. Hoping to find food there, they decided to explore the island, but little did they know that it was inhabited by the Cyclops. The Cyclops were a race of giants, each one over 10 feet tall, with bulging, vein-covered flesh and one gargantuan eye right in the centre of their forehead. They struck fear and terror into everyone that crossed their paths and were famous for not taking kindly to visitors. As Odysseus and his troop explored the island, they discovered a cave overflowing with fresh fruit and vegetables, succulent meats and fish, as well as an abundance of grains, seeds and nuts. Their time at sea had made them ravenous, and they wasted no time in tucking into the feast, eating until they were fit to burst. Unknown to them, the cave was in fact the home of Polyphemus, the Cyclops son of Poseidon and Theusa. When he returned to his cave and found several strange men eating his food, he could not believe his eye. But he smiled, because it had been a long time since he had eaten humans. In one swift move, he grabbed a boulder bigger than a double-decker bus and used it to block the mouth of the cave to prevent Odysseus and his soldiers from escaping. Then he grabbed 2 of Odysseus' crew by their ankles and devoured them whole, crunching their bones and letting out a big burp when he had finished. The rest of the crew stared in horror as the Cyclops slumped over and began to snore contentedly, confident that Odysseus and his tasty crew had no way of escaping. When Polyphemus woke the next morning, he gulped down 2 more of the terrified sailors for breakfast, then effortlessly pushed the boulder away from the mouth of the cave, leaving to lead his sheep off to pasture, carefully closing it again behind him. Seizing the opportunity, Odysseus and his remaining men scrambled around the cave to see what they could use to help them escape. They found nothing but fish and animal bones, empty wine casks, and not much else. Then suddenly one of the crew found the leg of a broken table. "Perfect!" Odysseus exclaimed, rubbing his hands in glee. He rallied his men, instructing them to fashion the wood into a spear which could be used to blind the Cyclops on his return. They worked non-stop, shaping the wood until they felt the Cyclops' booming footsteps indicating his return. Hiding the weapon, Odysseus yelled out in his most charming voice, "Welcome home, master. You must be tired after your long day. Would you like some of this fine wine from my homeland of Ithaca?" Rolling away the rock, Polyphemus stared at the cask of fine wine that Odysseus offered him. Polyphemus was wary of the offer, but his curiosity got the better of him, and he had never tasted wine from Ithaca before. He accepted the offer and drank his fill, and soon the strong wine took effect, making him sleepy.
"What's your name, sailor?"
asked the Cyclops. "Nobody," smirked Odysseus. Polyphemus then fell asleep, and his earth-shattering snores filled the cave. Quickly, Odysseus gave the nod. Deftly, his men grabbed the spear and expertly pierced it straight into the Cyclops' colossal eye. With a blood-curdling scream, an enraged Polyphemus scrambled to his feet in agony, lumbering around the cave begging for help. He caused such a commotion that the other Cyclops came to investigate.
"What's happened, Polyphemus?"
one shouted from behind the rock covering the mouth of the cave.
"Are you all right, friend?"
said another.
"No, I'm not all right,"
Polyphemus bellowed.
"Nobody has hurt me. Nobody came into my cave and attacked me."
The other Cyclops looked at each other, bemused. Polyphemus must be having a nightmare or has gone mad, they thought. He was making no sense at all, and one by one they went back to their caves, leaving him to soothe himself to sleep. Meanwhile, Odysseus and his men got ready for the next part of their plan. Next morning, the blind Polyphemus bumped and fumbled his way around the cave to lead his sheep to pasture. Odysseus watched carefully and then gave the signal to his men that it was time. Each man carefully positioned himself under a sheep, wrapping their arms and legs tightly around the sheep and holding on for dear life. As the sheep passed Polyphemus, he patted each one on the head and back to ensure his prisoners were not attempting escape. Then he replaced the boulder and went on his way. Odysseus and his men waited until Polyphemus was out of sight and then took the chance to free themselves, slowly unwrapping themselves from their sheep. Standing up, Odysseus felt the heat of the glorious sunlight on his skin and took a deep breath, enjoying the smell of the salty sea air. He looked around and saw what remained of his crew as they embraced the sweet taste of freedom. That evening, when Polyphemus arrived back to the cave and realised his captors had fled, he stormed to the harbour and called upon his father Poseidon to wreak revenge on Nobody and his crew. On hearing this, Odysseus laughed. "Oh, what a stupid Cyclops you are!" he shouted as loudly as he could so that Polyphemus could hear him from the harbour. "It was not Nobody that attacked you. It was I, Odysseus, the shrewd and brave king of Ithaca, with the help of my trusty men."